I was awakened by the morning light and the singing of mountain bluebirds. I could hear chipmunks running around the campsite trying to clean up the crumbs left from my freeze-dried food from the night before. The joy and excitement of going camping after all these years quickly dissipated when the reality of what the day would bring arrived. The air was crisp and cool here at 6,000 feet, and as I stepped out of my tent, I was engulfed by the beauty of the high-altitude lake surrounded by snow-capped mountains at my campsite. I wanted to stay longer. I wanted to cast a rod with a trolling rod or fly, but I knew that today was the day I had been dreading for the past month. The confrontation I had to take quickly and finally to start over. I cooked a breakfast of eggs and sausage on the propane stove, along with thick black coffee. As I sat and fueled up for the 6-mile hike, I marveled at how beautiful and peaceful this moment in time was. I reminded myself that yes, there can be beauty and joy on the other side of life if you just keep moving forward with the right mindset. I knew I would definitely return to camping, hiking, fishing, and sailing, just a few of the hobbies I had left behind during my 23-year marriage to the love of my life. Well, let it be the person I once considered with all my heart to be the love of my life. The descent was uneventful. I met no one on the trail or in the parking lot. As I packed up my car and drove out onto the main highway, I turned on my cell phone again, which hadn't worked for the past 3 days, knowing that once I was in cell tower range, the texts, voicemails, and emails would start. Dennis and I were not only father and son, but best friends and confidants, having gone through the trials and tribulations of his tumultuous adolescence and coming out the other side with great respect and love for each other. Dennis's message was short and succinct. Dad, I love you and support you. Good luck today and keep a positive attitude. Somewhere, sometime, there will be a light at the end of this tunnel. His promise of support brought tears to my eyes and helped me justify what I had to do. The next message I opened was from my daughter Helen, and it too had a promise of support and love. Daddy, I wish I could be with you and hold you and tell you that everything is going to be okay. You've been the best father we could ever imagine, and you've always put us first. Now you have to put yourself first, no matter what it is, and know that Dennis and I love you and will always be there for you. Helen was always Daddy's little girl, and although she was an exact replica of my beautiful wife Charlotte in her younger years, Helen had my sense of adventure, love of nature, and a crazy sense of humor that Charlotte did not. At least in my 23 years, I was blessed with children whom I loved, respected, and who would be the best legacy I would ever leave at the end of what I hoped would be a happy and fulfilling life. Over the past 3 days, my wife had made 10 missed calls. The first 7 or so probably due to her 3-day banking seminar and supposed business trip to Vegas, and the last 3 seemingly due to her return last night and again this morning. I imagined how angry she was when I wasn't at the airport to pick her up and when I didn't return any of her calls or texts. I didn't bother dealing with the voicemails, deleted them all, and moved on to the rest of my inbox. Charlotte had texted me about 20 messages in the last 3 days, and again I hadn't responded to any of them. I looked through them cursorily, the first few were her declarations of undying love for me, what nonsensey I thought probably done out of guilt, and the last few were venomous. Out of them dripped resentment that I hadn't answered her, hadn't returned her calls, and had left her waiting at the airport for over an hour before she finally realized I wasn't coming. The last text from her was simply, WTF Jacob, all in capital letters. How our relationship had changed over the past month, although from her perspective, I don't think she even realized how slowly the spark of love that had forever burned for her was slowly going out in me. I really couldn't understand it. Had she really grown so distant from me over these past treacherous 4 months? Had she completely stopped thinking about me, about my feelings and the pain in my eyes that I was amazed she couldn't see? Had she so easily forgotten her children, our family, and the loving life we had shared for so long? It was perhaps even more depressing than her infidelity. In her 44 years, Charlotte was still beautiful, with incredible curves, slender legs, firm breasts, and she knew how to use her body for any occasion, whether flirting at a social event or playing the role of a rising banking star in the trust department of U.S. Commerce Bank. I was always proud to be seen with her and enjoyed the way men would stare at her as we walked by, barely containing their lust and keeping their eyes on her. The realization that she was mine and that she and I were forever bound together gave me a huge boost of self-esteem and ego as we walked past the lustful stares of strangers. I told her how beautiful and desirable she was, but she always replied that she was getting old and no longer felt as young, vibrant, and attractive as she used to. I could see that it bothered her and tried to assure her that her light was getting brighter, not dimmer, but she would just wave away my compliments, saying, "You just have to say that because you are my husband and you love me." Maybe the reason for all her lies and deceit was buried in those feelings of fleeting and lost youth. But I was sure I would never know. Maybe she wouldn't know either. Anyway, her younger boss, John Monroe, had somehow become a new light in her life. John Monroe, vice president of the trust department, was rich, thin, tall, and so cocky that the few times we'd met, he seemed obnoxious to me. But Charlotte thought he was the epitome of a great leader. At least that's what she used to say when we discussed her work and him. But even that stopped abruptly 4 months ago. Looking back now, I think that was the beginning of their affair. The beginning of the end of 23 years together. I shook off my depressing thoughts, looked at my phone again, and deleted all of her messages with an angry growl, then went to my email. My lawyer's email said that everything was ready to go, according to the conversations we'd had with him. I also noticed that I had a Snapchat, and upon opening it, it read, "The person you were interested in was in a serious accident when he was robbed." When I closed the chat, it immediately deleted. The next email I checked was confirmation that my resignation letter had been accepted, and my 401k and stock options were liquidated and the money transferred to my new checking account. I was free, at least for a few years, although the tax hit would be painful. But I didn't care. I had to go. I was about to pull into the driveway when the phone rang, and I saw it was Charlotte. I decided that now was not the time, as now equated to peeling off a Band-Aid. It had to be done quickly and with conviction. I rounded the corner of the bus stop, turned off the car, and answered the phone as unemotionally as I could. "Hey, Charlotte, how are you?" "What's up?" "First of all, where are you? You weren't at the airport to pick me up and you weren't home all night. You haven't even left a message or returned any of my calls or texts since last week. Tell me what happened." "God, Charlotte, I didn't think you cared if I answered or not, if you saw me or not. I thought you'd be glad I wasn't home. That way you could clean yourself up and get back into character before you saw me, the kids, our friends, or your parents. Isn't that how you lead your double life?" "What? Why do you say that, Jacob? I don't even understand." "What double life? You know I have to travel for work. And by the way, why aren't the kids answering my calls and texts? And where's our queen-sized mattress from the master bedroom? I had to sleep in the guest bedroom last night." "Jacob, what's going on, and where are you, and why did you leave me at the airport? I feel like I'm in the twilight zone and nothing makes sense." "Charlotte, you are in some kind of twilight zone that you have chosen to drive yourself and our entire family into." Charlotte's anger and aggressive verbal onslaught subsided as her confidence apparently began to plummet and her worst fears began to surface. What does that mean, Jacob? Where are you and what's going on?" "No matter where I am or where I'm going, I'm out of town, Charlotte. And I've been too busy for the last week to answer your texts and calls. I've been very busy trying to figure out how to survive a major betrayal in my current life and start a new one." Charlotte hesitated and her voice shook at the word betrayal, but she continued to play dumb and called out, "What, Jacob? Are you drunk? What are you talking about?" First of all, Charlotte, tell me how your 3-day banking conference went. Did this John make love to you every night and morning or just 3 nights? I heard her sigh and pause when I said that, and it took her a few seconds to answer. What are you talking about, John? Who are you saying this to and why? I'm married to you. Yes, Charlotte, you are married to me, and I'm amazed that you still think it's a marriage. So can you at least do me the courtesy of telling me the truth after 23 years of marriage? I know you have had no respect or care for me or your family over the past few months, but now that the lies and deceit are out in the open, how about you be honest? Charlotte replied in a trembling, soft voice. Jacob, I don't know what you're thinking, but you're wrong. I love only you. There is nothing between me and John Monroe. Charlotte, tell me the truth. Did you think you would never get caught, or did you not care? Were you getting ready to tell me you wanted a divorce and loved someone else? It would have been so much easier for everyone if you had had the courage to tell us before you lied and cheated behind our backs. Jacob, Charlotte screamed, and I could hear her crying. Don't even mention the word divorce. Please believe me, I only love you. Please come home so we can talk about this. Nothing is happening. How could you think otherwise? Obviously, Charlotte was sure I had no proof and was bluffing, so she continued the charade. So, you never slept with John Monroe in our bedroom on the missing mattress? No, of course not. What are you talking about? Charlotte, wait a minute, okay? With those words, I held up the picture of John making love to Charlotte. She looked like she was in ecstasy, and, judging by the strained expression on his face, he was clearly giving it his best shot. It was one of many photos and videos taken with a button camera hidden in plain sight in the dresser clock I had bought a month ago when I found out about her affair. I sent the photos to Charlotte and returned to the conversation. Charlotte, pull up the picture I just sent you. Are you telling me that's not my loving wife making love to her boss in my bedroom on my king-size mattress? I heard her drop the phone and scream in agony. Oh God, no, Jacob. Please, it was a mistake. It only happened once. It didn't mean anything. It was just a fling, just the thrill of someone younger than me wanting me so badly and making me feel attractive and young again. It was a one-time thing, and I really didn't want it to hurt you. Oh God, I'm so sorry. But Jacob, if... I interrupted her by yelling into the phone, Charlotte, look out the back window in the middle of the backyard. See the pile of charred wood, metal, and ashes? That's our queen-sized mattress. It symbolizes how you burned down our marriage, how you betrayed our family, how you humiliated me. When did you start hating me enough to hurt me like this? When did you decide that you no longer cared about my love or our family's love? When did you decide I was no longer worthy of your respect or honesty? When and why did you decide to throw us away like the morning trash? Jacob, please, please forgive me. I love you. I don't hate you. I could never hate you. I want to spend my whole life with you. It was an accident, a bad mistake, and it was just a one-time thing. I was the one who was selfish. There was never anything wrong with you. Please, Jacob, come home and talk to me. Charlotte, the kids and I are tired of the lies and deceit. Can you just be honest with me? Is that why the kids won't return my calls? Jacob, are you the one who told them and turned them against me? How dare you, Charlotte? I didn't do anything to turn the kids away from you. You did it yourself. Well, it's you and your boyfriend. It's all you. Your selfish, self-centered attitude and need for another man's man is what brought you into the twilight zone, what took our whole family, destroyed it, and drove us away from you. And no, it wasn't me telling the kids, it was the kids telling me. How pathetic is that? I never realized you could lie, cheat, and abandon us so easily. At least stop lying now. It wasn't just one time. It went on for at least 4 months, judging by how emotionally you cut us all out of your life. And the sad thing is, you didn't even realize it. You stopped talking to us, stopped looking at me, stopped making love to me. You disgust me. Jacob, it didn't mean anything. It was a one-time thing, and just a brief slip-up in a 23-year marriage. I want you, not John. Please believe me. Charlotte, wait. I opened the next picture on my phone. The one where Dennis came home unannounced to get his tools and heard his mother and John Monroe arguing. He quietly crept to the open bedroom door, pulled out his phone, and took some pictures and some videos. He was so upset that he didn't tell me for 2 weeks, until Helen and he decided I had a right to know, called me and told me, and we all cried and felt physically hurt that her mother, my wife, was cheating on me with her boss. That's what prompted me to buy a spy camera. I also sent this photo to Charlotte. Charlotte, open your phone again. This is the first we've heard of you and your boss, although judging by the way you severed all emotional ties with me 3 months before this photo, I'm sure you've been lovers for a long time. Charlotte, the first Dennis knew about you, he took a picture of you making love to John Monroe. You're drooling and look like you just walked through the pearly gates. How do you think your son feels about you after seeing such a betrayal from his mother? Do you think it might have alienated him, and you might have lost his and Helen's respect as they looked at those pictures and tried to decide whether or not to tell me about your cheating, promiscuous behavior? Do you think you have any trust or respect from them now? Do you know how painful it was for them to tell me you were cheating on me? And how hard it was to hear them cry as they watched you destroy our marriage and family? Just stop lying that it only happened once, and that it didn't go on for months, and that you didn't sleep with him 6 or 7 times on this last business trip. I'm hanging up the phone until the next lie. No, Jacob, please let me explain, I heard Charlotte scream at the top of her voice, and imagined her prostrate on the floor, finally realizing what her lies and betrayal had done to her family and herself. Oh God, Jacob, I'm so sorry. Please, you have to forgive me. I was crazy, but it's over now. It was just cheap and slutty love, and it was so exciting to be desired and to have an illicit affair in secret. I felt young and desirable again, but the love wasn't there, and I never meant to hurt you, but I don't know how I couldn't realize it was me. I didn't even realize how distant I had become from you and the kids. And I'm ashamed to admit that only now I wake up and see myself as someone else in a horror movie or nightmare, and I hate myself for it because I love you and them and our life together. Oh, dear Jacob, please, please, please come home so I can make things right. I have to make us a family again. Charlotte, we are gone. It's over between us. You can't believe you really loved me after the pain and heartache you caused me. You've shown that you have no respect for me, that you don't care about anyone but yourself, and thanks to your lies and deceit, I will never be able to trust you again. Everything we had before is now tainted and suspect. Have you been sleeping with him for the last few years or the last 4 months? How many other men has Charlotte had? Do I need to have my children's DNA tested? Don't bother answering because I won't believe anything you say. I definitely need to get tested for STDs. You and I have nothing left. You hurt me in a way that no one ever has or ever will. And I could never imagine that the man I loved and bet my life on would throw me away like a piece of trash. But you did. Maybe the kids will eventually come back to you, but I sure as hell never will. Jacob, please don't say that. I'll do anything. I'll go to counseling. You can sleep with other women. Please don't leave me. I've been living with guilt and wanting to stop, and I would. I would always come back to you. It was just a meaningless affair. Oh God, please forgive me. I'm so sorry. Subscribe to our channel to keep your partner from cheating on you, and listen to the next story because this story is nothing compared to the next.